On the eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day, we hear from an Auschwitz survivor 80 years on. Tomorrow is Holocaust Memorial Day, when the world commemorates the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz and remembers the millions of people murdered by the Nazi regime. To mark the anniversary, John Kay will be live from Auschwitz for BBC Breakfast. He travelled to Poland with the two daughters of Holocaust survivor Ziggy Schipper as they learn more about his childhood before retracing his time at Auschwitz.
Dad would be so happy that we are literally retracing his journey.
Lou, what's it like to be here outside his school?
I can't really put it into words, to be honest. Dad would have definitely been here.
There's a door open there. I don't know whether we can see what it's like inside.
I mean, I imagine it's not very much different to what it was like then.
I mean, it would have been so cramped.
And I found a list of school friends.
Oh
Schipper,
my God.
Zygmunt, Limanowskiego 26, that's his home address in the ghetto.
When we see a document with his name on, it really sends a shiver down my spine. I found the photo of that bridge.
Yeah.
And I showed it to my dad and I said, "Dad, do you recognise this bridge?" And he said, "Recognise it, of course." He said, "I lived on one side of the bridge and I worked on the other side. I crossed it twice a day, every day."
There it is, Piotrkov, murdered in Treblinka. They weren't people anymore. He would say, I was 84303, a number he could never forget. He forgot his bank card, but he never forgot his number that he was given.
Even at the end of his life?
Yeah.
That number?
Yeah,
Yes.
never forgot it.
Events will be taking place across the world tomorrow to mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest concentration camp.
One of those who survived was Yisrael Ables, who was just 14 years old when he and his family were taken to Auschwitz from Hungary. For the first time, Yisrael has shared his story on television. He joined our BBC Europe editor, Katja Adler.
We arrived there in the morning, a Saturday morning, a summer day. We don't know what is going to happen with us. We knew that there is something not pleasant, but we didn't expect that what happened. That most of the people, I would say about 80–90% of the people who arrived there were sent immediately to the gas chambers, and only those who were deemed to be able to work or useful for the Reich, they were sent into the camp. Immediately, myself and my brother, older brother, they were sent into the men's camp. And I haven't seen, from that day, I haven't seen my parents and my younger brother disappeared.
Could you see the chimneys? Could you see the chimneys of the gas chambers?
I just saw the smoke, the non-stop smoke. When it was the main season, when there's a lot of transports came, then day and night there was smoke. Even fire came out from the chimneys on the top, and we knew that they are burning human beings.
And how did that even feel? Like, you know,
the feeling that I'm not there gave me a kind of satisfaction. That's why I'm analyzing my feelings now. It was very difficult now to analyze what happened 90 years ago or 80 years ago. But I said, oh, lucky that I'm not there. I'm from the survivors. Mm. I've always had a feeling that I'm survivor. That's I never even at the worst situation, when it was not my chance, but I still believed I will survive. The Germans realized it, that in the camp a lot of youngsters came in who are not useful, they are not able to work, and they just made the selections to take them to the gas chamber. There is no children's camp in Auschwitz, so no children are meant meant only to the gas chambers, useless. And when I was selected, I just ran over to the other side. And nobody said anything, nobody noticed anything. But unfortunately, this had been repeated 10 days later.
So one, the Jewish New Year, and 10 days later, Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, and they made another children's selection.
By that time, it was not so simple, because I tried to do the same thing, to run over to the non-selected. A German prisoner who was watching the selection process. Bring back that boy. He got hold of me, and he said to me in Yiddish, "Läufe weg von mir." Run away from me.
Wow, so he was actually encouraging you to run.
I wanted to survive. I knew that there will be a survivor, and I had always a dialogue with my God. God, please let me survive. And he listened to me. And I was so, even with the selections and everything outstanding, everything evil going on, I had a feeling, right, I will be one of the few people who will survive.
How do you feel when you hear your grandfather talk about his experiences?
I feel very inspired because my grandfather faced so much adversity, and I think when he talks, I think he sanitizes it a little bit. That's my feeling. And yet, the basic fact is he lost his parents at such a young age and in such a brutal way, and he saw cruelty all around him.
You're sort of by your grandfather's side in telling the story. Mm-hmm. What made you do that, to go into schools and to, you know, it's outreach, isn't it? It's not just within the Jewish community to tell the story of Auschwitz, of your grandfather.
It was always a goal of mine, and I knew it was something I needed to do as my grandfather was getting older, that I needed to have some sort of record of his story that I could share with people.
Grandchildren are born.
That's Devora. One thing that I take from my grandfather's story, and when I listen to him, is that every person we meet deserves to be treated with grace and kindness and respect.
Preparations are underway around the world tonight for Holocaust Memorial Day. King Charles will join a dwindling number of survivors at Auschwitz tomorrow on the 80th anniversary of its liberation in 1945. One British survivor who is too fragile to make that journey is 95-year-old Rini Salt. She spent time in both Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. She's been speaking to our Europe editor, James Mates.
Beneath the gate that has become the abiding symbol of the greatest atrocity in human history, Auschwitz prepares to mark the 80th anniversary of its liberation, the world to honour Holocaust Remembrance Day. Not many entered this camp and came out alive. Fewer still can tell today's generation of its horrors. In a retirement home in North London, Rini Salt is one of those few.
Oh, we must remember. We can never forget anyway, but they're important. We live with it in any case. We live with it all the time.
Just 12 when she was herded into the ghetto, she had to look old enough to work to avoid immediate death, alongside thousands of other children.
And then they gave an order for parents to hand over all children up to 18 years of age. The crying of the children and the mothers screaming, "Almighty God, help us! Where are you?" still ring in my ears today. You could soon see the kids running towards the officers. They were all put on these closed lorries and taken away.
At every stage she had to survive selections, the most horrifying at the gates of Auschwitz itself.
At the head of the queue, a selection process was being conducted by the infamous Dr. Mengele, the butcher of Auschwitz, we learned later. With a flick of his finger, he directed one to die and one to live, one to the left, one to the right. They told us straight away, this is the place where people are being taken straight to the gas chambers. So we knew.
Rini survived first Auschwitz, then Bergen-Belsen. Her parents, her younger sister, almost her entire extended family did not.
Oh, gone.
So just 2 aunts were left?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And was that?
From a family of, you could say, a few hundred.
Rini describes surviving the Holocaust as not just a miracle, but a whole series of miracles. There will just be a few dozen of those survivors here tomorrow, which makes this 80th anniversary even more important, possibly the last major occasion when there will be living witnesses to the horrors perpetrated behind these gates. James Mates, ITV News, Auschwitz.
A 96-year-old woman has spoken of the day she came across the notorious Nazi SS officer Joseph Mengele at Auschwitz concentration camp. The officer, nicknamed the Angel of Death, spared Lydia and her sister from the gas chamber, but not their mother. Lydia, now a Londoner, spoke to Helen Drew ahead of Holocaust Memorial Day.
My mother, my sister and I.
It's a lovely photo, this.
Yes, I think it's a very nice one. I like it too, yes.
Is it one of the last photos you have of the three of you together?
Yes.
The last time Lydia Tischler and her sister saw their mum was when they arrived at Auschwitz.
And when we arrived in Auschwitz, we had to go through Mengele, who looked you up and down, and with a hand, whether he moved his hand to the left or to the right, you were either going to be alive, at least temporarily. If he said you go to the right, you went straight to the gas chambers. And unfortunately, our mother went to the right.
Her and her sister were processed and went to the showers.
I remember thinking, what will come out of the shower? It was water.
Few of those Lydia grew up with made it out of the war.
Do you know how many people in this photo of your infant school, do you know how many survived?
7 survived.
After being liberated at the end of the war, she came to the UK, where she became a child psychotherapist. At the age of 96, she's still working, taking nothing for granted.
What I kind of carry with me about Auschwitz is the stench of the place and the kind of total fear. You really lived in a fear all the time.
Helen Drew, BBC London.